One of the most sensational titles we're here to see at Gamescom is Batman Arkham City. And we're here with the fine, fabulous Dax. Sir, how are you this fine day?
I am ripped apart, but enjoying it. This is the first Gamescom I've been to in a while, so to come here with such an amazing title, we've got new reveals, new content to show off, and to finally put the game in the hands of genuine gamers, lovers of Batman, it's a great moment for us as a studio.
Okay, well, let's start off on the reveals, the announcements and everything that's coming out of Gamescom. Can you just fill us in?
Well, on Monday we dropped the Mr. Freeze trailer, so the big reveal was, along with Joker, Harley Quinn, Penguin, Riddler, Hugo Strange, Two-Face, Catwoman, we're also dropping Mr. Freeze into the mix. So when Batman goes into Arkham City, every single person in there wants him dead. And the guy running the whole show, Hugo Strange, knows his ultimate weakness. That was the big thing we wanted to achieve with Batman Arkham City, was this sense of threat just off the scale. So Mr. Freeze really rounds that out in a very cool way.
Oh, I'm not going to let that stand. I'm not going to let that stand. If you'd actually quoted Batman and Robin, maybe, but no. I'm going to skip over that. And we hear 3D is an option as well.
Not just an option, 3D is here at Gamescom. We are showing it off on PlayStation 3 and Xbox 360. Of course, it's available on PC as well. So it's a big feature that we've been working on for a long time at the studio. And the game just suits it beautifully. Carving between buildings, gliding through Arkham City, all of the world geometries flying past your ears. It just looks awesome. That kind of genuine, authentic, immersive experience. We've really delivered what we set out to achieve.
Now, we've heard a lot about Arkham City, but it still feels there's a lot of mystery to the game. Now, as we understand it, Gotham has a cut-off area that's the new Arkham, and basically it's being dominated by Batman's rogues gallery. How does this actually work in terms of, it's a bigger world, obviously, far bigger than Arkham Asylum and the island. How does this work? Do we have the different areas for the different villains?
The layout of Arkham City is completely open. So there's this awesome kind of turf war that's going on between Joker and his thugs, Penguin and his forces, Two-Face and his gang, and then Hugo Strange and the Tiger Guards are in the mix as well. But they don't have quarantine zones where they're restricted. They battle it out on the streets against each other because they're trying to take each other down as well as watching out for Batman at the same time. So right from the beginning of the game, the entirety of Arkham City is open to you as a player to go anywhere you want. And inevitably, you're going to go into areas where you'll see these fights kicking off between these two gangs. You can get in the middle of that if you want, or you can just bypass it. The world just feels alive every inch of the way. It's a beautiful thing to behold.
And obviously enough, we've got Joker making a reappearance now. I just wanted to ask, because Mark Hamill had stated before this was going to be his last performance as the Joker. Has he laid down his last line? Because I know you guys have said that the game's finished and you're just polishing. So I assume he's finished in terms of Arkham City?
Well, what he said at the end of Arkham Asylum was that this was going to be really tough to top, and he I think went on record as saying he just wanted to go out on a high. And then we started talking about Arkham City and the ideas we had going around, and he wanted a piece of that action. So, having Mark Hamill voicing the Joker just brings an amazing level of just quality and production value to the game that just blows us away as well. He's such an amazing performer. So, right now our focus is on October 21, finishing this game and delivering the ultimate Batman experience for gamers and for Batman fans. There are so many things down the track that we don't even know how they're going to begin. We just want to make sure that this game is awesome. And if we continue making brilliant games, I know that there's going to be great opportunities for the studio around the corner, and that amazing, talented people will want to work with us and continue to work with us. So that's kind of our philosophy of the whole thing at the moment.
It's one of the most obvious nudge, wink, winks I have actually heard in a games interview. Yeah, I have to say. But I will not probe you further because, obvious enough, there's a line there. But talking about other iconic characters, one of them is sitting with her head languishing over Batman's shoulder, Catwoman. 10% of the game will be dedicated to playing Catwoman. Now, obviously enough, when this was revealed, there's a little bit of backlash, unfortunately, which I think wasn't deserved. But have you found people have come around? They're liking the idea of playing a jewel thief?
Well, I think that's the brilliant thing about Batman and his rogues gallery, all these amazing characters, because people do react to them very differently. But either way, people react very emotionally, and that's what I just love about the opportunity that we have. We announced Robin. Some people were like, yeah, some people were like, what? But as soon as we start to explain our creative thinking, I think people understand the rationale that we took, the reason why we want to really delve deep into playable Catwoman, because she offers the opportunity to explore Arkham City from the perspective of a criminal. Robin is playable in the challenge maps, but if you think about it, if the opportunity to play was split between Batman and Robin, you're basically doing very similar things as those two characters, because their moral compasses are pretty similar. But Catwoman, she's totally different to Batman. So when you take control of her, you can do stuff that Batman would never do. So offering players the opportunity to enjoy really different experiences, that's what our creative thinking was. Whatever the association emotionally that people have with Catwoman as a character over the years, I mean, there's no way that we can control that. All we can do is focus on delivering a kind of gameplay design that we think takes the game in really interesting and innovative ways. And really, I think that's what we're doing.
Now, we've seen how Batman faces down the normal thug on the street with a wide array of arsenals. But I'm interested to know how the showdown happens between him and his rogues gallery. We've sort of seen a hint of this with Riddler's rooms, which expands obviously enough upon what happened in Arkham Asylum. But can you talk at all about the likes of Two-Face and stuff like that? How will that challenge Batman?
Well, this is, I think, something that is really going to blow gamers away when the game comes out in October, because we wanted to make sure every villain that we included in the game draws something interesting or innovative out of gameplay, out of Batman in terms of gameplay. So, taking on Riddler is all about the intellectual battlefield. You've got to outthink him before you can defeat him. Taking on Solomon Grundy is just about trying to get a punch in whenever you possibly can. Taking down Two-Face is about fighting through his gang and then getting to Two-Face, who himself is always armed, whereas, Penguin wouldn't last a second on the streets of Arkham City. And that's why he surrounds himself with all of this crazy crap that he collects as this sort of maniacal collector, as well as building out a power base as a form of protection. Mr. Freeze is, a huge armored robot, effectively, but he's also a brilliant scientist. So that's really what we wanted to get into with the Mr. Freeze trailer on Monday, was that balance between taking down someone who's very intelligent, who's also heavily armed at the same time, because he analyzes the strategies that you use if you do manage to get a punch in on him, and then he'll change the environment using his intellect and his abilities so that you can't use that same strategy again. So he's always kind of one step ahead of you and knocking out your kind of combat options. And that's, I think, a really interesting take on a character like that. But it fits him perfectly, and that's the approach that we take. What sort of encounter can we design that fits these villains perfectly?
I'm talking about Freeze. There's a certain element to him in the comics, it's sort of sympathetic, because he's trying to rescue or save, stroke, heal his wife, basically. Is there any sort of element to that in the game? I mean, obviously not the rogues galleries are in their quintessential iconic form. What have you brought into it with Freeze as a character?
All of that, because that is Freeze as a character. He's a very tragic man. All he wants to do is cure his wife. That's his primary motivation. He doesn't wake up in the morning and say, how can I kill Batman, in the way that Joker does. He's all about trying to find this cure, and Batman gets in the way. And then what do you do about someone who's got an objective that isn't you, but you're standing in front of them? That's the kind of setup that we've established for Freeze. So he's going to come through you whether you like it or not. But his objective is a much more tragic, much more sympathetic, very much more emotional one. And that's kind of the way that we've interpreted and positioned Freeze. So you kind of feel for the guy at the same time, but then you've got to go head to head with him, and that changes the kind of emotional feedback you get from that encounter.
And now, I'm fully aware we want to remain spoiler-free in this, so I will back this next question up first with a little bit of sort of background on, obviously not the first game, with the Scarecrow sequences. And in fact, we saw there's a moment in the game where, obviously enough, it seemed to reset the game right back to the start, and we realized it's some crazy cycle thing. How do you go about matching that in a way that doesn't feel like it's a reiteration of what was done before? If that is the most carefully way I can put that question.
I'm going to have to be really careful with my response as well, because the Scarecrow moments were a complete shocker for everybody, a total surprise, and I'm really glad that we never talked about them even up until the day the game was launched. And they worked really well. We want to do more of the stuff that worked really well in Arkham City, but we know that people are really keeping an eye out for this. So I'm not going to give you the answer to your question straight up, and I don't think you want it, because the things that are going to be genuine surprises within Arkham City we want them to remain that way so that you go, holy crap, these guys at Rocksteady have put in so much thought and so much effort and so much work into making this thing feel just brilliant. So I'm going to duck that question, but I think on the 22nd of October, you're going to call me up and you're going to say, Dax, thanks for not spoiling the thing. You'll know what the thing is, right?
There's a thing, but we can't say what the thing is, but the thing may be.
That moment, you're going to know.
Well, drawn back to the development cycle in whole and where we are now, like you said, the game's been finished. You guys have been polishing. How does that feel? I mean, obviously, now Arkham City did have that slight delay just at the end of its, just before it was released by about 2 or 3 months. Now it feels like you multiply that, triple that, and stuff like that. How are you guys approaching? I mean, is there a sort of attitude of let's just keep playing through this, tweak, or is there the seeping of ideas of going, wouldn't it be great if we do that? We've got the time.
It's a really interesting moment at the end of a project because the realization that this is going to be the game starts to dawn on you. And of course it's tempting to say, oh, but we could just add this little bit, or we could just change that. You've got to resist that every single day because the most important thing, I think, is having a game that is super polished and stable and bug-free. So the time for design and iteration and experimentation is long over when you're in the last weeks of development. So everyone at Rocksteady is very experienced and very dedicated to refocusing what's important at this point. You know, if we sacrifice that polish and put in a new feature that maybe some people won't see or no one will see, whatever, that's the wrong decision at that point. So we're very well trained in that respect. We just want to get the game not just finished, but finished to a really exceptional standard, and that's what these final weeks are all about.
And what will be in people's hands when it is released is a lovely collector's edition. Can you sort of talk about, do you have any input into what exactly it was? Because I understand it's a black and white Batman statue, which is part of the actual black and white series.
I mean, the collector's edition, I think, is freaking amazing. And yeah, we did have a load of involvement with it in collaboration with Warner Brothers and DC Comics as well. The artwork style of our campaign has been very black and white, this sort of spotlight style. So when we came to design the figurine, and Kota Bukiya, who are amazing manufacturers in Japan who produced it, we were talking about, should we go full color or should we extend this art style that we've established over the last 14 months? And seeing the amazing work that DC Direct have done with their black and white range, we just love them so much. So it was a discussion to sit down with DC and say, look, can we kind of get amongst your stuff? But it's appropriate for us because this is what we've been doing for a long time now with our campaign art style. And that was where we all netted out. We did a test run, a prototype, and everyone just went, yep, that's the one. Then on top of that, you've got the Dark Knight Returns skin. There's some amazing other content in there. So I think the collector's edition I'm a big gamer and I buy a lot of different collector's editions, but this to me just feels like it's on the money.
Statue better than Batarang then?
Yes.
Okay, that seems a very definite answer. Is there anything in wrapping up you'd like to say to people out there who are ready to get you? In fact, I tell you what, because we've talked so much about people that are really eager to get the game, the people who you know what, are out there, know about it, but they're not too sure whether it's for them, why should they go for it?
This is the great thing about, I think, Batman Arkham City and the approach that we have. Because if you've never watched a Batman movie, never read a Batman comic, never played a Batman game, we're building systems into the game that allow you to get on board with this amazing world, the Arkhamverse that we're creating in Batman and all of the characters in it. So if you come across a new character like the Riddler, we then unlock a bio which tells you all about the Riddler, brings you up to speed and gives you all the information, not only that you need to know within the game, but kind of within the broader universe of Batman. For those people who've never kind of thought about what sort of Batman game they want, but are gamers, the fact that we've got this huge open world where you can go anywhere you want right from the beginning, I mean, that is an opportunity that I think just fits so many kinds of games. And to do it in the action-adventure genre like we are, very narrative-driven, very character-driven, but with amazing expanse and exploratory possibilities and opportunities. If I had never seen this game before, that's the thing that would turn me on the most. Just being able to glide through the streets, between these buildings, pick a fight if you want, get out of there if you don't. I think that's the thing that gamers are really going to love, and that's the sort of stuff that I think they're going to tell their friends who have never played a Batman game before, dude, you got to check this out.
Okay, just one last thing. Hammer home the release date for us.
We're talking Batman Arkham City coming out in October. 21st here in Europe, 18th in the US on PlayStation 3, Xbox 360, and PC.